Are you taking AP English language? If so, why? Also, you're in the right place because you're here with Marco Learning. I'm John from Marco Learning. We're going to be talking about the digital AP English language exam. We're here on the Marco Learning channel. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel and checked out what we're doing, definitely give us a subscribe and a like, because there's all sorts of material we're going to be posting, not only for AP exams, but also for SAT, ACT, and college admissions. In a few minutes, everyone, I'm going to be joined by Katie Upton, superstar AP English language teacher. I encourage you guys in the chat, definitely make sure that you're asking your questions for us here. Let us know how we can help you. We love you all at Marco Learning. We want you guys to do really well. Let me show you a few resources we have for you that are totally free. The first is our playlist for AP English language. There's Elena Vernon talking about the rhetorical situation. There's my big dorky face talking about the synthesis essay. We walk through different individual rubrics. We talk about the sophistication point, each part of the rhetorical situation that you want to discuss. There's Katie Upton and me talking about AP English language. That was our paper and pencil last minute review. We've also got some key videos for you on multiple choice, which is going to be the theme of tonight's session, as well as Katie Upton's reviews for synthesis, rhetorical analysis, as well as the line of reasoning. So guys, this playlist, which is 58 videos long, is available for you. Definitely check that out. I'm also going to be posting in the description of this video, and I've already got it in the, I'll be posting this in the chat, but I have it in the description for you, is the our ultimate guide to the AP English language exam. So by the way, so much love in the chat. Thank you guys. You guys are the best. So this session is going to be about an hour. We're going to record it. If you're watching the recording, some of you I know are watching the recording at like 5 seconds before the exam starts. That's not a great idea for AP English language. But definitely focus on the things that you can control in these hours and minutes leading up to the exam. So this ultimate guide to digital exam has all the links that you need. It breaks down some of the format stuff. We're going to be going over the order difference between all of these. And we're also going to be talking about these 4 things: moving back and forth between questions, annotating on the digital exam, typing free response answers, and managing your time. All essential skills for doing really well on AP English language. We're also, if you haven't, let me know in the chat, have any of you downloaded our guide, our free study guide pack for AP English language? We break down the exam, but then all these awesome study guides actually talk about the rhetorical situation, each different part of the essay. Let me give you guys a tip. If you, and this is, again, the link is in the description. I'll post it in the chat as well. So free study guides are here, and I'm going to put this in the chat that's pinned there. Have any of you downloaded it? And if you haven't, here's my strategy for you. Pick 1 or 2 things you want to focus on, like the rhetorical analysis essay, question 2, or the argument essay, and just focus on that. For tonight's session, you're going to be, we're going to be looking at the multiple choice in particular, which is what we did last time on paper and pencil, but also in the context of the fact that you cannot go back and forth on the multiple choice. So you can have notes. Yeah, there's some great people, by the way, here from the Garden of English, 2 amazing YouTube channels for AP Lang students, Garden of English and Coach Hall Writes. It's great to see you, Rissa. Great to see a bunch of people doing superstitions to get all of this going. Now, one other thing that we have on our website that's really cool for you is a free practice test, which is where we're going to be. I'm actually going to take you guys right now. This is in the description of the video. So you'll see that we actually have the free full-length practice test for you. I think I actually just grabbed the lit test. Let me go to the AP. Make sure you have the right one. Here's the one with the books for AP English language. So there's some sample passages, and there's also the free response questions. We also have explanations that break down each part of these. Now, one thing I do want to say that's very important. People have said about this practice test, they've said, hey, the Marco Learning practice test is harder than the real test. True story, everyone. All the people I'm talking to about this, these digital exams are saying that the digital exams feel harder. They feel more difficult than the paper and pencil exam. So our Marco Learning Practice Test, which feels more difficult, might be a little bit more like what it's like on test day, but we don't exactly know. Now, one thing that is incredibly important to remember, everyone, if you have practiced with a Marco Learning Test, if you have practiced with a College Board test, if you practice with a Princeton Review test, I worked for many years at the Princeton Review. I helped write part of the Princeton Review's book for AP English Language. Guess what? The exam that you are taking tomorrow on Wednesday, May 26th, is not going to follow the sequence of any of those books. The multiple choice questions are going to be divided up in a different way, and the free response questions are going to be sequenced in a different way. So I'm going to be pulling this up. We're actually going to walk through what that structure is like so you can visualize your day tomorrow so that you can all feel confident that you're not going to be surprised. And let me just pull this up. While I do, I want to invite Katie Upton to join me if she is here, because there's a lot to take a look at with this digital AP exam format. Katie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm in the mountains. So John, let me know. Hopefully the Wi-Fi is behaving.
That's right. And we can also go if we need to. The Wi-Fi is looking good to me. And let's give some love in the chat. Give me some heart buttons.
Your reflection, but yes, we are way up in the mountains in southeastern Oklahoma. So we ended on Friday. Our seniors graduated on Saturday. So we're living the good life for a little while.
That's right. That's that Texas wonderfulness that New Jersey people can't relate to at all, because school is still going, Katie. Thanks for rubbing it in.
Sorry.
So yeah, the view looks amazing, Katie, which is what Sean is saying in the chat. So it is wonderful to see you, Katie. It's wonderful to see everyone here. One thing I want to talk about, Katie, is the digital AP English language exam. You and I are imposters because we have never taken one of these before. We have never really seen one before. We don't have any feedback from AP English language students. Now, what are you hearing from the AP English Lit side of the world? Like I said, a lot of people said that the digital AP exams feel harder. They feel overwhelming. What are you hearing? What's in the air right now?
Yeah, so I'm hearing about the same thing. And, I'm not quite sure if it is just a matter of the kids are a little bit more intimidated because they are all on their own. There's always the worry about the Wi-Fi and what's going to happen. And if someone comes in, it's not like a secure place like it is when they come on campus and they walk into their testing room, and we can control a lot of things for those kiddos. But when you're taking that test from home, we can't control those things. Even those kids are doing the digital version on campus, right? There's still that extra component of stress, which is the internet, right? The Wi-Fi, like the fact that, I'm in the mountains and who knows what's going to happen. It's rained for 17 hours straight since we've been here. So we can't control that. So, as we're going through, and I've been talking with some of the teachers and actually some of those AP Lit students, the feedback is, and actually what's interesting is the stress has been a little different, right? But my students that I've talked with don't feel like the questions were necessarily harder. It was just the fact of they can't choose to skip a question. They can't choose which essay to write first. So for them, that was what was a little bit more difficult for them, not necessarily the content.
Katie, you're getting at something really important, the psychological experience of the test. And this is something that we talk about actually both we have a video for this, me and my dog, but also this article, which I'm going to post again in the chat here, our ultimate guide, that talks about that exact challenge that students are facing, which is you get into this test and you're thinking like, whoa, I'm in lockdown mode. So this is not the lockdown browser we've all come to know and love over the course of the last year with AP Classroom and things, but you will be prohibited, everyone, from using any of these other tools, Spotify, Grammarly, Open Book, Open Note, those are all closed to you on the device you're taking the exam. And if you have not yet set up the exam, technically it's still not too late, but you need to do that like now. It is in our ultimate guide. Like Katie's stressed out. Katie's having heart palpitations, everyone. I've been seeing this from AP coordinators, like people are able to kind of get it set up at the last second, but don't do that, everyone. Do not wait. Go to do it now. You can download this again. That's in the ultimate guide, which I'm going to pin to the chat, pin to the top of the chat for all of you. And by the way, if you have not opened the chat, you can jump into the conversation there. If you like this video, everyone, press that like button for us here at Marco. This is how your exam is going to go. And notice what it says, Katie, your exam starts automatically. Like, it's not like you're in the room and you control your environment. Boom, you're locked down. It's automatic. And then you get these exam instructions. One key thing that you all need to be aware of is there's the multiple choice, like 1 hour, not fun, that you're going to all experience. Then there's an automatic 20-minute break. Let me just repeat that. There is an automatic, it will automatically begin. It will last 20 whole minutes, which in the world of TikTok is like 5 years. So our students can like age, graduate, take a trip to Greece, come back, think about their career options, chat with some friends, watch TV, take a nap, and then wake up, and it will automatically begin on the other 20 minutes. And then here's the key, everyone. You still got to manage your own time. Katie, what is the timing like on the free response of AP English Language? How do you help your students manage time on free response?
So it's interesting, and I'm sure, I hope everyone who is with us tonight, you guys understand that for the actual digital exam, the orders of the free response are different, right? So you're going to start with the argument essay, you're going to move to the synthesis essay, and you're going to finally write the rhetorical analysis at the end of your time. To be honest, my opinion is that College Board put the free response questions in this order to make you more successful. I could certainly spend 2 hours and 15 minutes writing a really good rhetorical analysis. But here's the thing, y'all. All 3 of those tests or all 3 of those essays are equally weighted, right? So it doesn't really make sense for me to spend an hour and a half writing that rhetorical analysis when it's not worth any more points than the other free response questions. But it's a lot of brain power, right? For that rhetorical analysis, you use a ton of brain power there. So we want to spend a little bit of extra time there. We really don't need to. And so I think that that's really why College Board moved the rhetorical analysis to the final free response question. Now, with the argument essay, you guys are you should be familiar with that essay at this point. You guys are going to get a really solid but abstract prompt that's usually going to be over some kind of topic that none of us really care much about. We're not greatly invested in it. And that's what the challenge is with that argument essay is, oh my gosh, how do I make this great argument about a topic I really am not invested in whatsoever? Well, that's where you get to kind of flex as a writer. But keep in mind, you're still only going to use 40 minutes. Now, hopefully, as you have been writing over the entire school year, you've been monitoring yourself as you've been writing these argument essays. There are definitely going to be some people tomorrow who only need 30 minutes to write a really good argument essay. But the key is, hopefully you already know that today. If you don't know that yet, right, then I would for sure allot yourself those 40 minutes, maybe about 8 to 10 minutes brainstorming. Definitely don't start writing that argument essay until you have done the brainstorming. And then you're going to get that little reminder at the top, 40 minutes has passed, right? And then you're going to move on to the synthesis essay. Now you will still, my understanding from the AP Lit students who took the digital exam, you do still get that little kind of an alert at the top that 40 minutes has passed. We recommend that you move on to the next question, which is something that we do verbally when we are proctoring those exams. So we still get that reminder. Now, just because it's a recommendation, you don't have to use it, but let's use that. Let's try to stick with that allotted suggested time from College Board. Remember, y'all, they are the experts. And I do truly feel like if they feel like we can write a really solid argument essay in 40 minutes, don't spend more time writing it, okay? Now, where there is a little bit of wiggle room for a lot of you is going to be in the synthesis essay. And that is because some of you are definitely going to read faster than others. For example, I know that it takes me less than 15 minutes to read through my sources for the synthesis essay. I know that I can trim probably 10 minutes total from that synthesis essay, which is, remember, the suggested amount of time is 55 minutes. I know I can knock a solid synthesis essay out in 45, which gives me an extra 10 minutes to allot towards that rhetorical analysis. Again, That's data that I know that I've been working with throughout the entire school year. I like to track that. My students track those things. If you haven't tracked it, okay, just note, and you may want to do some tracking tonight, maybe, right? There's still time. And so as you're prepping in this final hour, you may want to look through a couple of essay or some synthesis prompt practices, previous exams from College Board, read through some of those synthesis essays and ask yourself, time yourself, how long does it take you to work through those synthesis essay or synthesis sources? If you're pretty consistently knocking those out in 8 minutes, that gives you an extra 7 minutes somewhere. But listen, here's the most important thing at the end of the day when it comes to the free response questions. One, okay, College Board graders cannot score what you don't write. So you cannot sit there and brainstorm so much or kind of freeze to where you think every sentence, every line, every idea has to be perfect. That's not the case. On the old rubric that we used to have, remember, John, that 9-point rubric, at the top it said, this work is a rough draft and should be graded as such. And our graders still get that reminder. Your graders still get that reminder that this is a rough draft. So y'all have got to put your thoughts, I guess it would be pen to paper, right? You got to start putting those fingers to work and getting those thoughts down. So that way you can earn those points. Graders want to score you. They want to reward you for what you do well. So get your thoughts down on paper. Then as you move through each essay, my recommendation, because you can't go back to another essay, is at least for each one at the end, leave at the end before you submit that first free response question and then the second free response question. I would spend maybe 3 to 5 minutes reading back through your essay. And here's really all I want you to look for as you are going through that final read through before you submit. Do you have a logical line of reasoning, right? Because that is going to align with row B on the rubric, which is evidence and commentary. And if we have a really solid line of reasoning, or even a decent line of reasoning, we're hoping to get a 3 out of 4 on row B. So if we proofread and just check, and when I say proofread, I mean we're really just reading through, almost picking our ideas apart like an outline, and just making sure that our ideas build on each other. Just making sure that we've got some transitional sentences or phrases in there to really reinforce that we have logically developed an argument. That's going to be most important. So for all of you, for each one of these submissions, make sure you read back through your essay at least once just to check for your line of reasoning. I don't know that I would recommend spending 10 to 15 minutes. You don't have that to write, John, to review and look for your spelling and grammar issues. Graders, again, are going to be generous. They understand this is a rough draft. Where they can't be generous is how they can't bump up, or they cannot try to figure out what your line of reasoning is. As an AP research grader, we're told we can't score you for the inferences that we have to make, right? So there are times that I'm looking at even in my own AP Lang classes, I'm looking at essays and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're thinking here, but you didn't write it down. I can't give you points for what I think you were trying to say. So read back through and look for that really solid line of reasoning.
That was a total amateur move at this point in the year. What I love about what you just said is it's not about, because I'm getting some questions and concerns about all these big picture things. You know what's not the big picture? A thesis statement at the end of the first paragraph that's clear. You know what's not like the big picture? A line of reasoning that makes yourself really clear. You know what's not like something that you need to go study and worry about on Discord is like actually just developing your essay. There's a code word that's been used in the test prep world and standardized tests for years. It's called development. Develop your commentary with evidence. That means write a long essay. Now, the foolish move is to be like, I got to write, it's a word count contest. So you have no plan, no thesis, you don't answer the question, you make up a bunch of stuff, and you think you're going to take people like Mrs. Upton and other smart graders and trick them. They're not going to be tricked. People who grade for AP Seminar and AP Research and AP English. It's a bunch of smart people. It's a very scary group. I've actually written on this channel some essays live and had AP English teachers correcting my grammar. Then I went in the other room and I cried. It's a very tough crowd, but at the end of the day, they're not grading you on grammar. They're not grading you on all these things. It's your ability to answer the question with a clear thesis that has a line of reasoning that tells me like why, what's going on. If you don't know what line of reasoning is, check out our study guide pack that I've pinned to the chat. Check out our YouTube playlist for AP English language, everyone. It's 58 videos. One of them is dedicated to line of reasoning. And then there's the essay that you want to write. This is what you're talking about, Katie. The essay you want to write, and then your own fear imprisons you and you don't actually execute on writing. How many of you, let me know in the chat, how many of you are somewhat fast writers and typers? You can type very fast. And most of my students can't. They're good at like typing hate speech on TikTok, but they're not good at like actually, like there's like dog emojis on the Marco Learning TikTok, but actually typing in that word processor. One thing that's absolutely is stunning, Katie, and I'm going to show this right now, is when you look at this tool that the College Board's created, and you actually look at what you can do inside the text box. This is, by the way, this is what we're seeing on the College Board slide deck here is the annotation tool that helps you mark up the test. Not a lot of people are finding this super useful at first. It might be your style. Go for it. Don't care. What I care about is this on the right. Looky here, there's a text box. You can type your outline in the text box, quick outline. You can type your thesis statement right at the beginning. You can modify that thesis statement. You can make sure it has a line of reasoning, as Katie's saying, and then you can move stuff around in your essay. You wanted to have 3 body paragraphs and the clock said no. You can finish it up with 2 meaty body paragraphs, nice sort of stumpy conclusion, and move on. Because also, as Katie has been saying, and as absolutely critical, look up here, you've got a timer, a clock clicking down. You can hide this until the last 5 minutes. Remember that once you submit your essay, that first essay you're going to do, and let's just review again, the first essay's argument, nothing to read. It's an open-ended prompt. Once you submit that argument essay at 40 minutes or 38 minutes or 42 minutes, but hopefully not 69 or 74, 89, 80, 800 million minutes. Try to get it done in 40 minutes flat or fewer. Once you submit it, you cannot go back. This is something the College Board is really kind of locking you guys in your experience. So let me just show you. I'm going to zoom out. Sorry, this is not working very well. Here's multiple choice, which we're going to get to in a minute. You are not allowed. You're going to get one of these. Reminder, you can't go back. So there's no going back on any of this. And remember, for the synthesis essays, you're going to have all those sources, the 6, maybe 7, but probably 6 sources that are there. Katie, any other, before we get into some multiple choice tips, the thing that's freaking people out about how they cannot go back on multiple choice, before we go there, any other pieces of advice for students taking or dealing with the free response questions on AP English language?
One, right? We want to make sure that we have a really clear thesis statement, because that really sets the tone for the entire essay itself, right? So if you're going to spend a lot of time brainstorming, make sure that it is with that thesis statement, you're coming up with solid reasons for whatever your position is, right? And then, like John alluded to earlier, make sure that you are fully developing your ideas, right? And really what we want to see, for those of you who are a little bit panicked about what is line of reasoning, my teacher hasn't said that word one time this entire school year. It's literally the organization of your ideas, right? So it's just the way, I mean, think about line of reasoning as an outline, okay? So double check it before you start actually putting the thoughts down on the paper, and then, or on your Word document, right? And then just remember, you are prepared for this, right? You do have really good ideas. You're not competing against the other, 300,000 kids who are taking the language exam. You are competing against that rubric. So make sure that you are very familiar with those 6-point rubrics, Remember, you're going to get the most bang for your buck with the evidence and commentary. Please let's not spend 45 minutes trying to develop a really great line of reasoning in order to get the sophistication point, because there's very little that we can control when it comes to that sophistication point. There's a little bit of subjectivity there, right? So remember, thesis statement, evidence and commentary, that is where it's at.
Great. And I'm just going to remind you all, please don't spam in the chat. A couple questions that we're getting. You cannot copy and paste text. You cannot use any add-ons, Grammarly, all that stuff. You don't want to use Grammarly because they're not being graded on grammar. You're being graded on all of this. You can find out all this information, everyone. I'm going to post this real quick here, which is, let me put this, sorry, I'm just easily distracted. This is AP, I'm going to call this digital AP format. And I post this here for you. Katie, let's talk about multiple choice, because this is what we said we would talk about tonight, and it's very important. Now, a couple of things about this, guys. There will be no fish on the AP English language exam, I hope. Watch there be one in the synthesis. And we're going to take a look, by the way, in a minute, Katie, at the free response questions that were released for 21-21, because that's fun. We can do that. But you're going to see your passage here on the left. You can scroll up or down on that passage. You can also press this expand button out and then just look at the passage kind of in full whatever. And as we said, you can annotate the passage. So the multiple choice section is giving you some dynamism, some flexibility. What you cannot do is preview individual questions, because the questions come one at a time. Katie, for your students, how many of your students tended to preview questions, look at the whole thing? What have you asked students to do with that? What's worked for your students?
You know, actually, hopefully you can hear me okay. Actually, what works best for my kiddos, and we strongly encourage them not to look at the questions first, because what tends to happen is when we look at the questions first, we don't really analyze or understand the text as a whole, which means we can't answer those important questions about tone or shifts or overall or the overall tone, because we've been reading it to try to pull out these snippets of the very specific questions that asked about line 11, right? So we really have always encouraged our kids to not read the questions first. So the fact that you guys have to go one question at a time, really, I think that's going to be an advantage rather than a hindrance.
In fact, Katie, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to share this again, is as we look at the multiple choice setup here, is I have not advised students on reading comprehension over the years, and I've taught SAT, ACT, subject tests, AP exams, all these tests. I have not advised students to go around spending 8 minutes previewing questions. It doesn't actually do as much as you think it does. It can actually contaminate your brain a little bit. I want to show you all a really cool hack for the multiple choice. It's very simple. When you get a question, why does the author bring up something in line 15? If you can go back to that passage, read a few lines above and below that area that's cited in the question, and come up with your own answer first, or try to think through like, oh, I think he brought it up as proof of the argument he was making in the earlier paragraph. It's a proof. That gives you control so that when you get to the answer choices, you're not letting these College Board writers bombard you with all their bad answers. So this is this tool, that technique, read the question, go back to the passage, kind of look for that one little spot, try to generate your own answer, and then get rid of a couple of wrong answers. That is incredibly powerful. And that is unchanged by the fact that this is a digital format versus a paper and pencil format. And Katie, you were going to say something.
You know, so a lot of our kids will go to some SAT prep companies around here to help them prepare, right? And oftentimes they are told they should be reading the questions first. And I just want to remind you guys, this is not the SAT, right? You are earning college credit with this exam. It's going to be more difficult. So some of those strategies that you've learned through your SAT prep course, those aren't going to work because the test is different. It's more challenging, as it should be. right? So I know that might be contradictory. And sometimes my kids are like, well, wait, my teacher down the street said I should definitely read all the questions first. And then I'll go, okay, great. This time, read them first. Let me know how it goes. And then the second time, don't read them first and we'll compare data. Every time my kids' data shows that they are more successful when they don't read the questions first. So just that reminder, because I know a lot of kids have been taught it's good practice, right? To read the questions first.
And as Katie said, don't trust that teacher down the street. Trust that teacher
not
here
down
on
the
YouTube.
Street.
You got two of them right here. And we are trustworthy. The one thing I want to point out, we're getting a lot of questions about a lot of things that we actually cover inside of this playlist.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and actually post this in the chat for all of you. And I'm going to pin it to the top of the chat, in fact, so that you can access this. This covers questions like, how do I approach, for example, we have a 3-part playlist here on multiple choice, but then we actually break down each step of the synthesis, each step of rhetorical analysis. I write actually rhetorical analysis questions live. That's probably a little too long for last minute cramming, but this literary argument series is a bunch of short essays that can help you. So just want to encourage you that we go in more in depth on that. Now, Katie, you mentioned something very important. You said, hey, this is not the SAT. You can be earning college credits with this. And I took AP English language in high school, and I earned college credits from my AP English exams that helped me graduate a full year early from college. At its best, the AP program is amazing. So, but I want to talk about the questions you get, because there's 2 flavors of multiple choice questions on AP Lang. One is like difficult reading comprehension. It's got some different quirks. Remember, everyone, there's fewer of those like name that rhetorical device questions, right? You're not going to see ethos, pathos, and logos show up in those multiple choice questions. You're certainly not going to be seeing as many of the automatopoeia alliteration type things. Okay. But then you get a pile of writing questions. So Katie, let's start with these reading comprehension questions. I'm going to pull up our practice test and kind of just show this. And let's talk a little bit about some tips, some last minute tips for approaching questions like this. And I'm going to scroll down and take a look at this passage. I think this is one that we looked at in our last review, right? It's a presidential speech from George H.W. Bush. There was notably, Katie, we have an ultimate guide to the AP English language exam on our website with a picture of Barack Obama as the headline. He was the Q2 rhetorical analysis source this year. It was a speech that President Obama gave, I believe, back in 2016. So it's very typical on this test to get a presidential speech. Should I read this whole passage carefully? Like, how do I approach reading comprehension on this test?
So my argument and my advice to my kiddos is that, yeah, for the reading passage, we do need to kind of slow down a little bit. And it is the only portion of the exam, really, other than the rhetorical analysis, that I tend to mark up or annotate. Now, to be honest, if I were you guys taking the digital version, I'm not quite sure how much I would actually use the annotation tools. I will say about the only thing that I tend to do is just like paragraph 1, what's he saying? Paragraph 2, what's he saying? Paragraph 3, what's he saying? My thought there is if I can write down what he's saying, then I understand what's being said, right? If I can put it in my own words, then I understand it. So for me, it's really more of a check of my own understanding than it is anything else. So that way I know I don't need to reread it, okay? So that's what I tell my students. Now listen, on exam day, again, tomorrow, I'm not sure that I'm going to use the annotation tool. I might jot it down on a piece of notebook paper right beside me and just put P1, P2, here's what I know is happening. That way, that's my check. Yep, I understand exactly what's being said here in this paragraph. Because I can't analyze his purpose, his tone, its effect on the audience if I don't first understand what's actually being said or what the message is from each of those paragraphs. And sometimes you have a couple of paragraphs, the message is the same. So that's a little bit less work. So yes, y'all, I do recommend that you slow down a little bit for the reading passages. You set in it a little bit longer than you do the writing passages, which actually makes sense because tomorrow, you're going to have 60 minutes. You're going to have 45 questions on the multiple choice exam. You're going to have 3 writing passages. You're going to have 2 reading passages. So obviously, right? Because we're only reading 2 of the longer reading passages, we know that's probably going to take a little bit longer. I have taught my students this year, and it's a little bit unfortunate because, well, there's a lot of unfortunate things that happened in 2019, 2020, but one of the really unfortunate things when it comes to AP English language is we have this new multiple choice exam and no one's ever taken it yet, right? Although we could argue that it might be great for you guys because you're the guinea pigs, okay? But here's the deal. I have taught my kids for those writing passages, I want you to spend about 10 minutes per passage. That includes reading it, obviously, and answering the questions. For the reading passages, I highly encourage them to spend about 15 minutes per passage, which equals, there's your 60 minutes right there. Now, feedback that I've gotten from my kids this year, John, and what I've seen from my own experience administering paper pencil practices in my room is my kids are finishing with more time on the clock for the multiple choice than they have ever had before. So I think that's really comforting. And I want you guys to be comforted by that. Don't rush. All right. And here's my advice. Don't rush until you get to the end. Okay. So as you're setting through there, make sure that you're keeping an eye on the clock. Again, I wouldn't spend any more than 10 minutes on the writing passages, 15 minutes on the readings.
Yeah, and in fact, what I've just shared here, everyone, is once again, the sequence you're going to see tomorrow. The very first question that you will see is a writing passage. And this is a big deal because this is going to look different from our from what you see in the Marco Learning Test and from what you see on the College Board test. So on our test, we follow the paper and pencil format. April the 8th, surprise, College Board decided to make a new rule. So you're going to see a writing passage first, then a reading, then a reading, then a writing, and a writing. Let me give you all a piece of advice. Between writing, the second writing passage, and reading, there will be no break, but do a little time check for yourself. There's 45 questions in 60 minutes. Just say to yourself, wait a second, am I doing this right in terms of timing? Because if you don't, on multiple choice, here's your problem. If you go too quickly, you'll be sitting there twiddling your thumbs for a while, which we've heard from people. Okay, if you move too slowly, you will be stuck with 3 minutes and 17 questions left. Now, the timing's never been better for this test. Like, used to have 55 questions, now it's got 45. I'm very confident that you guys will be able to handle the timing, but I really strongly recommend a time check right here to make sure you're moving quickly. Remember, you don't want to leave any questions blank on this test. So if you're going through and you let's say there's like 60 seconds and 8 questions, you better be clicking. Click to fill it out all the way out, but avoid that problem in the first place by really making sure that either at the halfway point of the clock or this kind of halfway point, it's not really a halfway point, right? Because these are shorter passages for sure, but there's a check to sort of make sure you know where you are. You could also put the check here, but this is something that's very important. Same thing here, everyone. You should, at minute 40 or minute 41, really be tying up the argument and moving on. Synthesis is going to give you 15 minutes to read and 40 minutes to write, and then rhetorical analysis is 40 minutes. Do not shortchange yourself by leaving not enough time for rhetorical analysis. Do not shortchange yourself by finishing with 28 minutes to spare. So those are some high-level timing tips, because here's the thing: you're not going to radically transform your mind overnight. Like, we can't help you, bro. Like, it's too late, and you can't help yourself by staying up late worrying about this test. What you're going to do is focus on those behaviors. And I've told this story many, many times. Katie's heard it too many times, but I'm going to tell it one more time. I took AP English Language. It was April of the year 2000, which I know was 900 BC before COVID. And I was in my AP English Language class, and I took a practice exam. There was 3 40-minute questions in 2 hours, and I botched the timing in practice terribly, like 55 minutes on the first passage instead of 40, 50 minutes on the second instead of 40. I had almost nothing left for that Q3 back then, that argument essay. It was a disaster. And my teacher yelled at me, Mrs. Lasko, I love you. And I massively improved my performance on testing. I went in, and my job was to manage my time. And in fact, everyone, and Madi's asking me what I got. I got a 5 on the real exam by the time I was done because I managed my time. So everyone is going to type in the chat right now. Everyone, all of you. Tomorrow, my job is to manage my time. I'm going to type that in for everyone. Tomorrow, mañana. Okay, tomorrow, my job is to manage my time. That's your job. What's the right? Like, so I've sent these people, Katie, a study guide pack and a playlist and all this stuff, but that's actually a mistake, right? Like if what time is it over where you are in Texas? Central?
8:45.
Oh, okay. It's past your bedtime. But I got some Californians out there. It's only 6:45. They want to do a couple of hours of studying. They absolutely can. Look at all these people, all these smart, beautiful, wonderful people. Tomorrow, my job is to manage my time, right? That's what you can control. Katie, what's the other advice you're giving your students this year heading into the AP exams?
Yeah, so obviously, just like you said, John, making sure that you manage your time, to making sure that you walk in with or sit down at your computer with a plan of action. And I saw in the chat there were quite a few questions about, hey, is there a checklist for each of the essays? So not only do we have those videos that John has you pinned it to the top of the chat, right? But then also in that study guide pack that we have for free for you guys, we break down each of those essays. So we give you essentially a checklist for all 3 essays. So we're going to talk about the argument. We're going to talk about what you're doing for the synthesis. There it is, planning, all the things, right? So that, yes, there you go. We have that checklist. Now, here's what makes me a little bit nervous as far as time management and checklist, graphic organizers, plans of action, because I think that can be distracting, right? And y'all just wrote down in the chat, your job tomorrow is to manage your time. I think, and based on the feedback that I've gotten from my AP Lit students, they were talking about how, the same thing that happened to a few kids last year, because you can have whatever setting beside your computer. You can look at study guides. You have some supplemental information there. That's a distraction, y'all, right? I would try to hold yourself to the same parameters as kids on the paper pencil exam do, because honestly, I think that's why it was easier for them. Right? Yes. Because they're like, oh, it was easy. Whatever was in my brain is what I had. And so, as a teacher, John, you can relate. All my kids came back and they're like, it was so easy. And I was like, oh, great. So glad to hear that. Because you never know, like, oh God, what does that mean? But yes, remember and really hold tight to the fact that you've been working for, 9 months towards this exam. And this is a skill-based exam. Right? Whatever. I mean, if you don't have these skills by now, it's going to be really hard for you to get them overnight. Right? But also, even you guys in the chat, y'all are so hard on yourselves. You're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You've got to be confident. You've got to put down whatever thoughts you have. Right? They can't grade what you don't write. But then also, just make sure that if you are having a little bit of time management issues, one, take a deep breath, gather yourself, and fix it. It's your job. John said it, fix it, and then start from there. If you're running out of time with those free response questions, remember, you get a point for the synthesis essay. So if you've got 30 seconds for that rhetorical analysis, you better write a 30-second thesis statement and hope that you get 1 point. Right. And we've never had that opportunity before. That's like our kids, if John, if they didn't, with that old rubric, if they didn't have a fully developed essay, they were getting a 0. Now at least you get 1.
Katie, that's a really important point. I was looking at the chat and getting distracted by the nonsense. But one thing I did want to point out in the chat that is very valuable is this. This is a very weird thing to say. We've done this in other streams, for those of you who've been here, which is tomorrow. You're all going to type this right now. Tomorrow, I will get points. I want you to type that down. Tomorrow, I will get points. And that's different. Getting points is different from how you think AP English language is, because you think you need to write a beautiful work of art. No art. You think you need to be like brilliant and like perfect. No perfection allowed. You don't need to be perfect to get a 5 on this exam. You don't need to be perfect. You certainly don't need to be perfect to get a 3. To get a 5, to get a perfect score on the AP English language exam, 76% of the multiple choice and most of the points in the essays, but no, you can get a 5 with no sophistication points. You can get a 5 botching the multiple choice in some fundamental ways. Tomorrow you will get points, and that will change your behavior because you will say, oh no, I ran out of time with the 2 questions left. Who cares? You didn't need to be perfect. You're going to finish up your essay and like cut the conclusion off early. Who cares? There's no conclusion point at the rubric. Who cares about imperfections? Because tomorrow you will get per point. But Alejandra says, no perfection allowed. And people are manifesting things. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, press the like button. Subscribe to our channel. We are here for you at Marco Learning. We're going to be providing more support all through the week for AP exams and support for college admissions and SAT and ACT all through the summer. So one thing I think that's important also, Katie, that you brought up is that no notes, no stuff, no clutter, right? Like clean desk, clean mind. And the AP English language exam fundamentally is already an open book test. Like, there's the reading passage. Read that. Synthesis. You got 6 whole things. On synthesis, everyone, do you need to read every word of every source?
No.
So, Katie, how do I deal with this? This is a question I have for you. You've been plugged in. Your students have been using computers down in Texas for a long time. You know what the internet is. How do you deal with computer like mental overload and stress? Is there anything that you're seeing about sort of maybe clearing your desk and not having notes is a first step, right? But is it important? I guess, I mean, I'm asking that almost not knowing the answer at all in my own head. Like, I guess it's about accepting, okay, it's in a computer format, but don't lie to yourself all day tomorrow and say, it's so different. I'm being set up to fail. You are not. It's a computer. You've used it before. Chill, right? What are you telling students in dealing with computers, and what are you hearing from the AP Lit students?
Yeah, actually, a lot of my students, because of the way this year has been, we're synchronous, asynchronous, synchronous, who knows what's happening? We're coming to school, we're not coming to school. So because of that, they've been working on computers primarily all year. By December, they hated it and didn't want to look at another computer, right? But listen, y'all, you've got to remember this is an opportunity, right? We're still trying to get points. We're still trying to get college credit for kiddos. So one, I think sometimes if we just look at it, in a positive manner, that's going to change our mindset. That's going to help us be more successful. Also, yes, John, I think you're so right. Like you need to, if possible, be in a quiet space. You need to close the tabs. I mean, you're going to have to anyway, right? But as much as you can, right? Stay focused. Stop hitting the backspace button. Right? Don't write 5 words and backspace and write 5 words and backspace. And I think that's probably the biggest mind shift that I had to have with my students over the school year, was because it was easier to edit in the moment. They were always editing, right? And that's why I was trying to talk about, like, it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to literally type it. Don't sit there and look at that blinking cursor, because for some reason, when it's on the computer, we think it's got to come out perfectly. It didn't when we handwrite, but kids had to live with it, right? Because it was in blue or black pen and they could scratch it out, but then they don't like how messy that looks. So I think they were less likely to revise and edit in the moment than our kids who are now on the computer. So we've got to, don't think about that tomorrow. Write it. And then if you have time, the first thing we're going to look for is the line of reasoning. Second thing is, if we have time, then we can look for some of those, the more sophisticated language and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And in fact, one thing, a couple other things I want to look at real quick, Katie, on our agenda for tonight. There's been a lot of questions. There's some people confused about who I am. So my name is John, not Marco. Marco is my dog, and we named Marco Learning after my dog. So those of you who are from TikTok are quite familiar with this already. This is my dog, and this is me. Me, dog. And in fact, I even have in videos where here he is. I don't know if you've seen this one, Katie. We're actually walk through the free response. There's Marco, and that's me, John, walking through these free response questions. So actually, I want to pull this up. And everyone, this is very easy to do. You just Google 2021 AP English Language free response, or FRQs, okay? And this will get you to the PDF that the College Board has released of the free response questions. And I'll post this here in the chat, which is, and don't worry, Marco's coming. Katie, we're popular, but not really as fluffy as Marco. So this, by the way, was the synthesis question, which was all about the handwriting versus cursive situation and about teaching handwriting in schools. And one of the sources that has gotten a lot of discussion is this. Remember, there are visual sources that you're going to be provided with, maybe one or two, right, on synthesis, and you have to analyze them. And for me, some people said, okay, what is this? Like, where did they get this? For me, I thought immediately of like, okay, a system of education that is brainwashing kids to learn how to write in cursive. This is a rite of passage, right from an online practice thing. Katie, what happens if I see a source like this and I have no idea what to say?
Well, you just move right past it, right? You don't want
Problem
to spend
solved.
too much. I mean, you have 6 sources, y'all. You only have to use 3. Move past it. Don't waste your time trying to analyze something that you just can't quite figure out how to navigate it into your paper. That's the worst thing you can do, right? Because what we want to see is a sophisticated argument. You're not going to get an extra point for using the worksheet that I saw on TikTok and Twitter. Some kids were like, I was so distracted, I just filled out the whole worksheet. And I was like, oh my gosh,
that is not
terrible. Yes, don't do that tomorrow.
Bestie, do not fill out. I'm going to use some TikTok language just so that the youth can understand me.
Yes.
Bestie, I do not claim the negative energy of you filling out this lowercase cursive practice. Do not do that. But again, think creatively. You're looking at this, you're thinking, I can't really use it. Think strategically, right? You're going to get points, which means you're going to use at least 3 sources, which means you're going to move on and not be perfect, bro. And that's what's going to power through. All these words are a springboard for you to answer the question multiple times. That's your job on the exam tomorrow. That's what's going on here. Here, as I said, this is a speech, from 2013 of former President Barack Obama doing what politicians and presidents do, which is speaking publicly in a rhetorical situation. And you probably have studied this in your AP English language class. Who is this speaker? This is the sitting president of the United States who is talking. Who is he talking to? This is about the National Statuary Hall of the U.S. Capitol building. It's a formal political occasion. What is his subject? Rosa Parks, right? A civil rights hero. And the moment that we're dedicating a statue decades after this occasion, there's so much to say. And this is the first Black president of the United States talking about a Black woman who wouldn't sit at the back of the bus. What an incredible setup for this. True story, everyone. They're going to include right here a little checklist reminding you what's in the rubric. If you've never studied the rubric, remember I have a playlist that has the rubric walkthrough videos right here. I'll show them to you. This is it's called Rubric Walkthrough. It's on our channel right here at Marco Learning. And you go here, and what's the first thing you got to do? Make sure you have a thesis statement. Make sure you have a line of reasoning and you back it up with evidence. You tie that back to your argument. And you also develop your argument as fully as you can. Use appropriate grammar and punctuation. It's not a spelling test, but try your best. Spend your time closely reading that rhetorical analysis source. But the first thing you're going to see tomorrow will be something like this, which is, Katie, such an appropriate topic for all the wonderful, beautiful people I have here in the chat. There are 600 of them here with us in the chat. And it's about perfection. Katie, what did you hear from your students coming? A lot of your students took paper and pencil, is that right?
Correct. Yes, the majority of our kiddos did. And, they thought this essay was so easy. And then I heard about Taylor Swift and about all of these other people who are striving for perfection. And, they're talking about how what's great about perfection is the journey and not the destination and all these wonderful ideas. And I was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. That's amazing. But here's the thing, you guys, as you're winding down and trying to prepare for tomorrow, remember, kiddos, there's a lot of helpful information in all three of the prompts. I always tell my students, especially for the rhetorical analysis, since John was just talking about it earlier, if it's in the prompt, your grader is going to expect to see it somewhere again. So when in your commentary for the rhetorical analysis, that's where you're going to bring it up again. You're going to talk about that rhetorical situation. So if you are not referring back to information that is outlined in the prompt for the Q2, or I'm sorry, for the rhetorical analysis essay, you're not doing what you need to do, okay? Because a lot of that information in the prompt is directly about the rhetorical situation, which is what you're doing in the rhetorical analysis. You're talking about how the speaker's choices reflect his understanding of the audience's beliefs and values and needs, right? And all of that is outlined in the prompt. So let those prompts work for you. In both the argument and the synthesis, I want you to do two things for the introduction. One, I want you to define any kind of abstract terms. Here's my thinking there. If you and I have two different definitions of what perfection is, and I'm your grader, and I have a different definition, then if John hasn't defined perfection for his idea of perfection, then I don't read his essay with that same understanding. So no matter if it's the synthesis or the argument, please make sure that you define any kind of terms that could be abstract, or there could be multiple definitions, right? That's a great place to start. Always make sure that you end with your thesis statement at the end of that introduction. Now, if you remember on the rubric, and nobody's listening to me anymore, I've lost my audience. The star of the show is here, y'all. It's Marco, who I swear is ginormous.
He is. We were talking about definitions of perfection. Here he is. Except I'm saying that, but I don't really believe it, because he digs in my garden. He causes trouble. He doesn't like sitting here. So Marco, stay with me. Marco.
He's the therapy dog.
He's our therapy
amazing dog. Also, I hope he's getting some sort of pay for all of this work that he does.
No, he works for free, bro. He got all of Marco Learning named after him, so that was something.
True.
Katie, you were saying something intelligent, and then I waved my dog in front of the children. What were you?
Well, I mean, I'm starstruck here. No, I was just talking to the kids about how, hey, if it's in the prompt, use it again, right? I mean, it's always good content, and let that sort of serve as your warm up to writing. Oh, here's what I was going to say. So, can you get the point for the thesis statement no matter where it is in your essay?
This, by the way, is Nina. This is my other dog.
Listen, I'm partial. Oh, Nina.
She just made an appearance in the last TikTok. Katie, it's falling apart. We can't give them any more advice.
No.
It's only dogs. This is every good Marco Learning review is like systematic look at strategies to help students prepare. And then like me hoisting in my blazer, hoisting a dog carcass in front of the camera. So I'm sorry, you were saying something?
Give the people what they want.
Thesis
statement. It is at the beginning of your essay, because that's really how you make a really strong line of reasoning. Will you get the point if it's at the end? You will. Could it impact your evidence and commentary or row B score if it's not the beginning? I think so. So I would make sure you do that in your intro, and you're going to be amazing.
Katie, there's much discussion going on about Nina Learning, about
always we want Nina Learning.
There's a joke actually at Marco Learning, everyone, about Nina Learning being a support for like K-5 students. Listen, everyone, it's past your bedtime. It's 10:03 on the East Coast. It is malpractice among educators for us to keep you up any later. You are going to go into your exam tomorrow, and you will do well. You're going to channel all those resources you have deep within you. You don't need to study chemistry stuff like it's the chemistry exam. You don't need to know calculus formulas or whatever is calculus is. You don't need to know French because this isn't Francais. This is Anglais, and you have to work with the skills that you've been developing for years. You have a voice in you, and you need to trust that voice. So tomorrow, and this is the last thing you're gonna write here is tomorrow, comma, tomorrow, I will trust my own voice. Trust your own voice. Katie said, that backspace button is broken for you tomorrow because the backspace button is you saying, I don't trust my own voice. I don't believe in myself. I don't know what the president of the United States is doing when he's on a stage talking to his public, right? This is very, very important that you just remember throughout your experience tomorrow, you have the skills within you. You have the strategies. We've gone over them tonight. Focus on timing, cut your losses off, and get points tomorrow, and you're going to have a great day. As a friendly reminder for all of you, especially my West Coast people, there are many, many resources that we have linked to here in the description. One of them is our ultimate guide to the digital AP exams. This is here in the description that provides some tips. It provides a link to our video about how to do well on digital exams, going into some of the points we discussed tonight, as well as not moving back and forth, annotating on the digital exam, all of these things, no free response. No worrying about free response. And yes, your backspace will work, but like we're telling you not to do it. I think some people didn't understand that. There is a full-length practice exam done in the paper and pencil order on our website under free practice tests. The link is in the description. People are typing that they trust their own voice. I'll leave that there. Check out the link in the description of this video. Just go to marcolearning.com. You can get to it right away. There is also the study guide pack. This is on our free study guides page. Definitely check that out. I think Katie, I've linked to the lesson plan, these rubrics, but I don't think at this point that's where you all want to spend your time. And then I've also shown off my TikTok account for all of you because there's more Marco and more jokes. And here's Marco typing. Look at what my life has become, Katie.
I'm sure glad you went to college for all this.
I went to college too many times. I got a 5 on the AP English language exam. That's it, kids. Go get a 5 on your AP English language exam, and then you can make dog talks of a dog's typing on keyboards. So listen, we love you all here at Marco Learning. We know you're going to do great. Be sure to be in touch with us here on our YouTube page. Remember, we're also on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever your favorite platform is. Katie, what are your final words of advice for our students going into this test tomorrow?
I can't say it any better than you did, John. Trust your voice, get your thoughts down, and remember, you are always a better writer than you think you are. I can promise you. I've had years of experience of going, no, yes, this is really good. So best of luck, good luck, believe in yourselves, be on time, manage your time.
Yeah, and Katie, that whole point about like, you're almost amazed when you trust yourself, like what you're capable of producing, and you're a reader, and we know this, that like you can only give points to what is produced. So produce those beautiful essays as much as you can, good enough essays on tomorrow's exam. Be in touch with us at Marco Learning. We want to help you every step of this journey and all through everything else you're going to be doing, AP and SAT and college admissions. So good night, Katie. Thank you for your help, and best of luck, everyone, tomorrow.